brought to you by Bethel School of Technology. Learn more at betheltech.net/Ken Coleman. Oh, Alex, I went and did some extra homework. So I got some extra stuff. We got several things to get to here. Okay, so we're going to first discuss where we are in the economy. And we're going to look at wages. And man, I got so much to cover. And the next segment's going to have two pieces of it. We'll get to the turnover, but we're going to have to talk about several things here. So, I'm just catching up. Here we go. Ready? I'm going fast. All right. U.S. employers added 142,000 jobs in our latest job report. That is an increase from 89,000 jobs the previous month. Unemployment rate dipped to 4.2%. It was 4.3% in July, so we're about a month behind here. Hiring last month was concentrated in hospitality, adding 34,000 jobs, healthcare, 31,000 jobs, and construction, 34,000 jobs, while factories and retailers cut jobs. Average wages in August. We'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to save that for a minute because there's just two wage things we need to look at. Up for some, down for others. We'll get to that. The dip in unemployment rate suggests that the Fed, who is committed to cutting rates, we know they're committed to that. It's not a guess anymore. The Fed chair came out and said, Jerome Powell said that we are definitely going to have to cut. The question is, how much? And we'll find out shortly. But a quarter point is what many are guessing. Okay. So when we look at where we are right now, the Fed doesn't want to see unemployment go up. They now want it to hover or go down a little bit. There's no question that we're seeing the hiring market cool. People aren't hiring as much. All right, now let's look at this. I told you I want to talk about wage growth. You're going to see in the news that wage growth is up, and holding in my hands here that the average wages in August were up 3.8% from a year ago. So year over year, August to August, wages are up. Now you got to be careful of that because when wages go up many times, it'll cause inflation. Right now it's outpacing inflation. That's a good sign. But you remember the Great Resignation when everybody was leaving to get a raise? Those days are long over. Here we go. Inflation for new hires. If you adjust for inflation, the wages for new hires fell 1.5% over the last 12 months. From $23.85 an hour to $23.51 an hour. It doesn't seem like a lot, but that's the largest such decline in a decade. So this is for new hires. So people leaving an organization or for those coming right out of college is what we're talking about. That's not necessarily good at all. So average wages are dropping for new hires. That tells me, an economist, that you've got a very cool hiring market. Everybody's contracting, waiting to see what happens. Presidential election. Are we going to see a soft landing? Because what everybody's waiting to see is, are we headed into a recession or not? Right now, nobody really knows. Some predict yes. Most people that are watching the stock market right now are going, I think we got a soft landing. In other words, we come off of all these rate hikes. We lower the interest rates, which we know is going to happen. And then we land softly. We don't have a recession. We'll see. Nobody knows. But normally when the economy is accelerating, pay increases for new hires tend to outstrip those of existing employees, as I mentioned in the Great Resignation. So when the economy slows, as it's doing now, that flips. And we're seeing in the data the new hires aren't making as much. Okay. All right. So that's something to be paying attention to. Now, a quick pause. We still are at a very low unemployment rate, 4.2% unemployment. Historically, really, really low. Not an all-time historic low, but still really, really low. We're coming into a presidential election. We now have the Fed, after raising rates for a while, holding rates for a few months, and now saying definitely going to be a cut. How many cuts before the end of 2024? We don't know. We do know that the next meeting, and so we're looking at going into October with some type of a cut. What will that do for the economy? Now, the answer is we don't know. But Don't assume that all of a sudden that the hiring market is going to just heat up. We may see going into 2025 a contraction of hiring even more than it is now. So a lot of companies are sitting pat. The second thing we might see is if we go into a small recession, you might see layoffs. I just think everybody, these major companies, like a lot of small businesses are all kind of, let's wait and see what happens. Okay. I've said before that who wins the presidency doesn't affect your day in, day out life as much as you think it does, and it doesn't. However, policies do affect the hiring economy. So I'm saying all this to say, I think that the smart play is, unless you have an absolute golden guaranteed opportunity on the horizon, I'd be looking to stay put. In other words, I wouldn't just move right now and go, well, I'm going to walk and I'm going to see what the job market has. I wouldn't do that. And unless you know that it is a great opportunity and it has a very low risk, I wouldn't move, because that very job that you take over the next 3 to 6 months could be in jeopardy. The economy right now still has these weird ups and weird downs. And so with a cooling job market, and I'm telling you folks, if you don't get it, we have cooled off big time. I wouldn't take a flyer on a company or a job that doesn't look very stable. That would be my advice. All right, let's keep going. A lot to cover here. All right, here we go. I want to talk about employee turnover because there's so much to get to. I teased that we're going to do some in this segment and then some in the next segment, because this is all connected. Gallup's latest poll in May shows that half of U.S. employees, 51%, are watching or actively seeking a new job. That's why I just gave the warning I just gave. Because if you're part of that 51%, I'd be really, really careful. Gallup estimates that the replacement of leaders and managers costs around 200% of their salary. The replacement of professionals in technical roles is 80% of their salary, and frontline employees, 40% of their salary. Okay? Now, this is to leaders. Leaders, this is what you're facing. Okay? You are facing a job market where people are they're not happy, they're looking. 42% of employees who voluntarily left their organization in the past year report that their manager or organization could have done something to prevent them from leaving their job. Did you hear that? 42% of employees, leaders, said that their manager representing the organization could have done something to get them to stay. Here are some of the findings from the study on what people said. 77% of those who left voluntarily left within 3 months of searching for a new job. Just 3 months. So there's a pattern here. It's not like they stewed on it for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. Within 3 months of just starting to kick the tires, 77% left. 36% of voluntary leavers report they did not talk to anyone before they made their decision to resign. This is isolation on this particular topic. They're keeping it to themselves. They're not telling their leader. They're not even telling their coworker. They're looking, and now they leave. 40% of those who discussed their intention to leave did not talk to their direct supervisor or manager before deciding to leave. I'm building to something here. 45% of voluntary leavers report that neither a manager nor another leader proactively discussed their job satisfaction, their performance, or their future with the organization within the 3 months before they left. In other words, a huge chunk of voluntary leavers say their departure could have been prevented. Launch your tech career today at betheltech.net/Ken Coleman.